So the title and subject of this video is Monotheism of Consciousness and What It Means to Be Holy. So what I'm going to do in this video is share with you a really powerful quote from Carl Jung. Obviously, if you've been paying attention, I'm on a little bit of a Carl Jung kick lately, but it's really important and relevant because it really brings into light many of the different things, many different themes and ideas which I've talked about in previous videos. And these themes and ideas are really underlying elements in our psyche, in our consciousness, which create imbalance both within us and without us. So for that reason, it's really important to see it and understand it so that we can then move past it and see things in a different way, see things in a more expanded and more enlightened way. So the quote is that Jung says that we lack the knowledge of the unconscious psyche and pursue the cult of consciousness to the exclusion of all else. Our true religion is that of a monotheism of consciousness, coupled with a fanatical denial that there are parts of the psyche which are autonomous. Which is another way of saying that we need to realize that our personalities are made up of not only our consciousness, but a multitude of other personalities as well. Which is another way of saying that our personalities, who we are, is more than just our conscious awareness or, quote, our ego. We're actually a lot more than that. And if you've ever seen that the illustration that Freud used of like the iceberg and how like the little top that we actually see is just like the conscious mind, the conscious ego, but actually the bulk of it that's unconscious is like what we really are. And if you think about it, it makes sense because all of these functions and processes in our bodies happening unconsciously, and without those we would be dead. And we think of, oh, well, my ego and my conscious self and my conscious awareness, my persona is so big and bad, but in reality doesn't really do that much in comparison to all the other processes what I just mentioned. So anyone who pays attention to life, to their own reality, or anyone who is really creative or meditates or studies their dreams knows this to be true and is completely obvious, and these people were probably kind of stumped by and kind of mystified and interested by this. Yet our culture and its programming and the beliefs that it's kind of put upon us really lead us to believe that it's really just the ego and that's it. Meaning most people don't really spend any time exploring their unconscious or exploring the other aspects of their psyche. So how this is important, how this is relevant to our conversation here is that this belief, this line of thinking, this paradigm leads us to emphasize thinking and extroversion at the expense of feeling and introversion. So it makes us want to be more logical and rational instead of cultivating and giving attention to our intuitive and irrational or creative tendencies. And this is basically because we're raised in a patriarchal, monotheistic, reductionist, materialistic culture, and basically that's how we've internalized that paradigm. Meaning that paradigm basically says that, oh, well, on the top is God and he created everything and that's it. Or it says on top is the Big Bang and that's where everything came from and that's the only thing that matters, that's the only thing that's in control. So we basically internalize that whole line of thinking and we say, yo, you know what? All there is my conscious ego and what I'm consciously aware of, and that's what matters, that's what's important. So what's thinking, what's extroverted, what's tangible, what's material, that's all that's important. And all this other, subtle things and creative things and intuitive things, that's just a bunch of unscientific, unprovable nonsense, basically. So just listening to this line of thinking, it's very obvious that it's unbalanced because every part of our psyche has a place and it has its important place and its important role to play. Meaning thinking and logic is really important and really useful, but so is being creative and being in the moment, being in the flow, and being irrational. It doesn't mean one is necessarily better than the other. They're just both tools, they're both aspects of our psyche that have their appropriate usage and their appropriate misusage. Yet, it's really common, and I mean, if you just go out in the world, you can see a lot of imbalance. And we wonder, why is this? Well, one of the main reasons is that we took this unbalanced view and basically internalized it. So of course our psyche is imbalanced because we favor only certain parts of it, we deny other parts of it. And then you look out in the world, pretty much the same story. We only, you know, really support and get on board with certain things and try to suppress and get rid of everything else. Another way of saying it is, you know, we really view, you know, culture and progress and our ego and all these conscious things, but we, you know, don't really care much about our animal nature or instincts or, quote, nature. But you look out in the world, what's pretty much happening? You know, skyscrapers and, you know, these things are replacing forests, and we're just basically trying to squash and control nature. Same process. So how does this relate to being holy? Well, basically, we need all of these processes, and we need to integrate them and accept them if we're to be whole. And when you think, well, what does that have to do with being holy? Well, if you look up what the word holy means, it means to be whole. It means someone who is whole, someone who has, you know, symbolically balanced the masculine and the feminine, or the left and the right brain, or the creative, intuitive with the logical and rational. However you want to symbolize it, it's basically what it's referring to is this, as you know, Carl Jung was referring to before, this process of just taking all these different parts of the psyche and, you know, only going for some and getting rid of some others. So to be holy is to just take all of it and realize that it has a place, it has an important role to play in integrating it, thus being whole, thus becoming holy, thus moving out of the monotheism of consciousness and moving on to probably a lot more creative, a lot happier, a lot more balanced life. Because if you think about it, we have thinking, we have feeling. So if we emphasize one over the other, number one, massive imbalance, which is going to cause a lot of other imbalances, which are going to manifest as health problems, emotional problems, spiritual problems, etc. So I know it's a lot of stuff crammed in this video. I just wanted to share with you. This quote really was pretty relevant and pertinent to me lately. I saw it, and it really rings true of a lot of things that I've talked about in past videos. So that's why I'm doing this now. Hopefully it made sense. Hopefully it was all clear. If you have any questions or comments, post them below, and I'll talk to you soon.